Hello XFactory friends and family, this is Paul Sinclair with another Walk the Track video. We are here at the Ohio RC Factory in Jeffersonville, Ohio for the 30th annual CRCRC Midwest Championship race. Special, I think this is one of the longest running races in the US, 30th annual. Maybe the Cactus Classic, I'm not sure. Anyway, as with all our track walk videos, we're going to start at the start. Kurt Schleister, the owner of the Ohio RC Factory, has painted us a wonderful American flag start line. And you're on power here and driving through this high bank section. This section is fairly easy. You don't see a lot of wrecks here. The only perhaps difficulty is that it's pretty far from the driver's stand. And you're trying to stay low on the bank and carry as much speed as you can. And so a couple guys will drag this inside corner. You can go a little further up the bank though, and again, if you're just carrying that corner speed, enough speed to make up the extra distance you're traveling by being off the apex a little bit, it works out pretty well. And off that bank corner, we head into perhaps one of the, if not the trickiest part of the track. It is the part where you can make up a lot of time or you can lose a lot of time, and that is the tabletop double, going right through the middle of the track. So this tabletop launch is a very nicely built jump. As you can see, we've talked about jump faces and how they affect how your car flies. You can see it's just really nice and smooth. The dirt here at the Ohio RC Factory is just tamped almost perfectly flat. There aren't a lot of bumps or things you got to worry about. However, there are a couple little things that as a driver it pays off to be cautious about. First, you can see there are, the surface is dirt, it's not artificial, and there are these little holes that develop. The Kurt Schleister, the owner, actually goes around and patches a lot of this stuff between race days, but it doesn't mean it doesn't redevelop through the next day. You can see it's just where, as people are accelerating up this launch ramp, they're just tearing out a little bit of rubber at a time and a hole develops. The other thing, and this is really hard to get on camera, unfortunately, but as a driver, it's a really big deal, is that there is a lip. If you can see where chassis are hitting the ground here, you can see all these little chassis marks. But right here in about the middle of the surface, as we go from the left side of the track over to the right side of the track, unfortunately it's right here in the middle, there's a little kicker. And if you're not careful as a driver, if you hit this kicker, if you're taking off from the middle of the tabletop, it will throw your car for quite a loop. It depends which tire hits the kicker. If you hit it, square on, it'll toss the back of your car. If you hit it with the left wheels, and so you see a lot of guys coming over this tabletop and having to correct, having to, throttle out of it or just try to save the car, save their truck so that they can carry speed into this next section. We're in the middle of the track, and so of course this launch ramp it's all about carrying speed to make that fast lap time. As we come down out of this high-speed bank, we hit probably the center feature of the track is this really nice tabletop. It's pretty easy. We're going to talk about the surface in a minute, but as you can imagine, we're just trying to carry as much speed as we can. We're trying not to over jump it, but rather set our car down on this wonderful downside ramp that Kurt Schleister has provided us here at the factory. It's the downside, there's nothing really tricky to it. It's nice and smooth. And again, you're trying to get your car down on the ground and carry as much speed as you can into the double rollers. And these double rollers are what make this little rhythm section one of the trickiest parts of the track. And what I mean by that is, if you want to play it safe, you just bloop bloop through these double rollers, you just kind of single through them, and you can carry maybe half throttle, you can use a little brake on the surface to scrub a little bit of speed, but you can just go through them nice and easy. But if you're brave, and especially in the mod classes, you come down, you set down early on that tabletop and you just punch it. You carry as much speed, build up as much momentum as you can, and you can easily, I shouldn't say easily, but you can clear these double rollers. The real tricky part is to have enough speed to carry you for the distance and to get enough lift that you don't catch your rear tires on the bottom of the, or on the lip of the second jump there. With the slight defect in the face of the tabletop, that kicker that we talked about in the middle of the tabletop, you really have to be careful to be on either the left side, the inside, or the outside of the track so that you can set your car down smooth and under control. because if you hit that kicker, your rhythm is lost for this whole section, and it's pretty easy to lose half a second or even a full second of time in this high-speed rhythm section. It's a deceptively simple looking rhythm, but it's very hard to execute properly for 20 laps in a row. So we've carried as much speed as we can over this tabletop. We're a mod driver, and we've done a nice job of accelerating between the table and into this double roller, and we've cleared this roller. But let me give you an example of just how tough clearing that double roller is. If we look down on the track here, this is the most beat up 10 feet of track that is here at the factory this weekend. You can see all these marks from chassis, from arms, from you know, bumpers digging in, from wheels scraping when people get a little sideways and they, you know, their car comes in and they catch a wheel. We've seen hubs break. We've seen all kind of ball studs break. I've personally broken two, not one, but two rear arms coming through here. It can be brutal when you get it wrong, but as you can imagine, you know, if you treat it as a double roller, if you just go bloop bloop, you're losing, like I said, maybe half a second over the fastest guys who are just flying through here. The other tricky part when you double is to get your car slowed down, because right after it we have one of the tightest corners on the track, an almost 180-degree left-hander. And so you're coming full speed, you've cleared the double, and now you're trying to pitch your car around this corner and scrub off all that speed so you can make the corner rather than traction roll in onto the straightaway or sliding out too wide in the corner. There's a really interesting feature that Kurt Schliester does here at the Ohio RC factory, and maybe some other track owners out there would be interested in this. Kurt, a couple years ago, started putting these little spade tips, and maybe we'll ask him later how he does this, but you can see very deliberately he puts these little slots in the dirt. And the point of it, when I first saw him, I was like, oh, that's an interesting feature. And but talking to Kurt, what he told me is that they collect dust. And so by putting these little slots in the dirt, he is able to have to blow it off less frequently, and it keeps the traction high for us racers at all times. Anyway, out of this left-hand corner, we've made our left-hand corner, we've hit our apex nicely, and it's just a nice simple acceleration up to the double jump going away from the driver's stand. If you'll zoom in here, Chaz, you can see here after the launch face of the jump, here's some of the dust that builds up on this track. It's very, very fine dust, and in fact a lot of this dust is rubber from tires rather than dirt itself. You can kind of like roll it and it'll pack right back in. We'll talk to Kurt later about, you know, maybe what he does with the dust or how he controls it. But the problem is, since we're running such low pin tires in such high traction, high speed environment, even that little bit of dust, when it gets under your tires, you're in trouble. So we've come out of that slow left-hand corner, we've accelerated, hit the double. It's easy to over jump this double, but it's also easy to hit your downside. Again, we have a really nice, smooth landing zone. You can see the dirt is still pretty smooth here. You don't see a lot of those chassis impacts and stuff that we've seen other places. This is a pretty easy section of the track. You hit your downside and you accelerate into the tight right-hand corner here. In this right-hand corner, you can see more of these like spade tip holes where Kurt has put in the track to collect dust. There's a roof leak, actually. It's one of the features here at the Ohio RC factory, and some more spade tips to kind of collect dust and absorb that water there. And we throw our car. This corner is perhaps underrated or maybe a little deceptively easy, because you land the double and you just kind of come into the corner and then accelerate out. But it's one of the sections of the track where the top drivers are really carrying a lot of corner speed. And when you're marshalling in the back here, you can just see how fast they're going through the corner and accelerating out into the big jump on the track that's triple in the back. And I just want you all in videocast land to admire that triple. That is a beautiful jump built by a master track builder. It takes all of the corner speed that we can carry through this 180, and then you just pin it. And you know, it's not a triple that stock guys can do. They're double and then single and out. And even actually some of the very top, like Cavalieri for the seating round that ran today, was double singling with his short course truck. But the mod drivers can pretty easily triple and that seems to be the preferred line for the buggies and four wheels. So again, we're standing at the foot of the triple here, and I just wanted to show you guys, this is such a wonderfully crafted jump. You get like just the amount of run up you need, not too long. You can't over jump this triple easily, you know, but you come out of the corner and just use all that speed, all that corner speed you carried, and take off from the lip. And you can see there's a little bit of chassis rubbing, but not as bad as there was, say, on the face of that tabletop earlier. And I haven't heard a single complaint about this jump, and everyone's just loving how high and how far their cars are flying. So this here is the downside of that triple in the back of the CRCRC track here. You can see it's just nice and curved, super smooth. You don't see anybody having troubles landing this jump. And as we look at the third jump, the third part of the triple, you can see there aren't even a whole lot of divots from people not clearing the triple, you know, and that's, to me, the mark of a really well-built triple jump. That, you know, you don't just see people busting their cars and breaking stuff and really struggling to make the jump, even though it's quite a large triple. I'd guess, I don't know, 16 feet? 15 feet? I'm not sure. I'm just guessing off the top of my head. Anyway, after the triple, we're going to carry as much speed as we can. We really geared up out of that corner, cleared the triple, and we're heading through another bank, this one in the far right-hand side of the track. And just a simple broad corner, carrying all our corner speed and heading into the ups and downs, getting on the straightaway. We've landed our triple jump. We carried all our speed into this high, not as high as the first part of the track, but this bank corner here at the Ohio RC factory. And we have just a nice chicane. Pretty easy, you know, you took a big breath when you jumped the triple, you landed it okay, so you exhale, and you get a pretty easy chicane here. The line as a driver is just, you know, stay nice and tight, hit your apexes, don't overdo it. I know for me as a driver, I can do the right-hander just fine, that's pretty easy, but if I don't think about it consciously, I usually turn left a little too late, and I blow my line over this, this little roller here. And so I just have to remind myself to actually turn left a little bit earlier than I might otherwise, and my car, my Infiniti equipped B6 and my X61, SCX61 short course truck just hug this line nice and tight. There's nothing really special here, although as a driver I'll say this is probably my favorite part of the track. It's just got such a nice rhythm to it. It's this like kind of on-road chicane feel, but with the elevation changes that off-road tracks provide. You come down this roller, you carry your speed, you kind of check up on the face of this, and because otherwise you'd probably jump into the pit lane there on the outside of the straightaway. But you check up on this, and downside, this one has a sharper crest to it, so it's easier to get air. The roller before this is more rounded, so your car just falls off it nicely. This one, it's easy to over jump, and you lose time getting on the straightaway, of course, if you're in the air rather than putting power down on the ground. But if you just use the brakes and check up on the face of it, we can stay right tight on this tube and power on down that long, high traction straightaway. So getting on the straightaway here, we see one of the interesting facets of the Ohio RC Factory's track. And that is that, so it's a very adhesion-based track. It's sticky. As I walk across it, my shoes, you know, it's kind of like that gym floor, like your shoes, the rubber on your shoes catches the dirt. And it's very important what compound tire you're running, and very important what tire additive you're using. You know, everyone's got their own little secret sauce back there in the pits, and we're all wondering who's using what. But Kurt's track does, when it dries out, this surface layer will develop these cracks as though it was an outdoor track. Usually when you see this kind of stuff, it's like a clay outdoor track, but here we are indoors and we have that same cracking pattern. And one of the things that tells me as an engineer and a racer is that even though it feels like a really sticky, you know, you'd call it a clay style track, there is some friction on this surface. There is some tire wear and some tire scrub that goes on, and not all of the traction that you get comes from the stickiness, but there's a lot of traction that comes from this grippy surface as well. These cracks that create, usually they'll form most prominently underneath the heaters in this building. The heaters are these, I don't know what kind they are, but they're on the ceiling and they blow warm air down basically. You can see them, they're these long trough style things. I don't know if they use steam, I think, I'm not sure. But So under those heaters, the track will crack like this. And this is, when you see these cracks, that's when the dust will start to pick up. And it becomes a little more imperative that you hit your lines and don't run out in the marbles. We kind of looked at the dust earlier on that double jump. But this start of the straightaway here, there's nothing really tricky to it. I mean, you came off that kicker and just accelerated down it like we showed you. But it's a good opportunity to show you how the surface of the Ohio RC Factory's track is kind of unique and kind of cool, and it exhibits some of an outdoor track tendency. After a costume change, necessitated by some technical difficulties, we're here at the end of the straightaway. And of course, as always, there's a nice sweeper here. This particular layout has a nice gentle turn in into a chicane kind of carousel corner. Not too difficult here, just, you know, hug the tube, make sure you turn in time because it will get quite a bit dusty. We talked about the dust on the track that develops. So there will be some dust and some marbles along the outside of the track, but 99% of the people, 99% of the traffic is staying in this nice tight line. And the very top guys, you can actually, if you listen close, you can hear them hit almost full throttle in this little 15-foot stretch here between the corners. You know, they are always trying to keep that speed up and put down power everywhere we can. So we come off the straightaway, a nice easy sweeper, short shoot into this kind of carousel / decreasing radius corner here. As you can see, it's a left-hander, it starts nice and easy, and then it tightens up towards the exit here. So we kind of have like a late apex situation. One of the things that's a little tricky about this corner, trickier than it might seem because of the layout, is that with the poles here at the Ohio RC Factory, if you stand at the wrong place on the driver's stand, this corner can be a little obscured. And so you really got to pick your spot on the stand carefully. After this decreasing radius carousel corner though, we're going to hit this tabletop into the step down and reach the end of our lap. So this tabletop into the step downs here is it's a deceptively easy looking jump. We have a nice lip here, although unlike some of the other jumps on the track, this lip isn't as perfect. And we can kind of see there's a high point here in the center and some lower areas here on the left and on the right. And again, it wouldn't be so hard except that your vision can kind of be obscured from the driver's stand, and of course you're coming back towards the driver's stand, and so you know, it's always a little harder to line up the jumps coming back towards you. And anyway, the downside of the tabletop is kind of one of those option areas. You can choose to jump onto the step, the first step, or you can jump all the way down to the bottom. Of course, jumping all the way down to the bottom is the faster line. You're carrying more speed, you're able to hit the jump harder, but we have this tight right-hand 180-degree corner immediately afterwards. And so the safer line is usually to step it down onto this first level and then hop down and go around the corner nice and tight. So here we are, the last little section of the track. You know, we step down from the option steps here, and we're in this tight right-hand 180. You can see the kind of cracking surface that we talked about. This section is right under the heater. This is where a lot of guys watch, so Kurt keeps the temperature up over here, so we get these cracks in the surface. This corner is a little trickier than it might otherwise be, though, because we have a couple depressions formed by some water puddles formed from traction, and they can kind of kick the back of your car loose as you come around this right-hand 180. It's not like a big thing. It's very easy to catch with a little counter steer, but it can cost you a tenth or two of a second at the very end of your lap. After this right-hand 180 though, it's just a straight shot to the line. There is this double here, but I haven't seen too many people struggle with it. It's a very simple, just jump up it, get your car down, and shoot on across the line. Thanks for joining us for a lap around the 2017 Winter Midwest Championship, the 30th annual at the Ohio RC Factory. We'll see you guys next time.